Hello, Aquarius, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of January 2023. So, this reading will be for Aquarius Sun, Moon, and Rising. By all means, if you know your three major placements, you can feel free to listen to any and all of the readings that might apply, as each one may resonate for you differently. And as always, do keep in mind these readings are general in nature. They're meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals. So that means not every detail that comes through will make sense for you. I highly recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate for you, however, that connects to your personal circumstances, experience, whatever that ignites within you, and simply leave the rest. So, Aquarius, Happy New Year, happy 2023. I hope you guys are all doing well. If you are returning, I apologize. I've been kind of MIA. I haven't been doing readings for the last few months. Things have been just a little bit tumultuous, just going through some stuff, and I really had to just rein it in and focus on myself and my family and just kind of keep my head down. But I'm feeling much better now, and I'm super, super excited to be back and in a better energy to read for you all. I was not really doing much in the way of energy work for those few months. So, yeah, I feel good and renewed. And if this is your first time here, welcome and thank you so much for joining me. I'm super, super excited to be here reading for you and to see what January has in store. Because I'm a little bit late on this reading, this will be for the month of January, but for about the next 4 weeks. So moving into the beginning of February. And then that way it'll give a bit of a buffer, and that gives me some time to get February readings out, hopefully, as well. So I've got your oracle card here. We're going to pull a couple of tarot cards, get you a final oracle. And then I'll share with you the couple of channeled messages that I connected with before getting these cards up before the reading began. But just to start off, it was a very interesting energy, your energy, that I was picking up on while I was preparing for the reading. It's kind of like this very focused, but focus isn't necessarily the key takeaway. It's more like an unfazed type of energy. And it's kind of like chaos. Like there might be a lot of chaos internally, externally. There might be a lot of things going on, a lot of overstimulation, potentially things going wrong, things demanding for your attention. And I just kind of felt like this solid sense of feeling or being unfazed. So, not letting yourself be distracted, not letting yourself become unfocused or untethered. It was kind of like a solid feeling, but it was also kind of void of much emotion. So I didn't get the sense that you were necessarily experiencing a great deal of emotion, or perhaps you have taken a step back from experiencing things emotionally. Maybe you've kind of just been through a lot and you're still processing. So it's kind of just like you also may just be kind of at your max in terms of emotions and with things to kind of process. So you might not, I don't want to say apathetic. You could be feeling a little bit apathetic, maybe a little bit disconnected, but I would just say kind of maxed out potentially in terms of what you can take in or take on emotionally, because it's like I kind of got the feeling that you're already focused on doing other things. Like maybe you're focused on processing or healing or managing or responding to a specific situation or a specific struggle or something that you really need to take care of personally for yourself, and that's where the bulk of your energy is going. So you don't necessarily have an excess of energy to become emotionally involved in or impacted by all of the various things that may be going on. So it's good in the sense it may kind of be like a self-preservation thing while you're focusing on yourself and working on your own thing. It could just be overstimulation, but I didn't get the sense that you were feeling the chaos as much. So perhaps you're finding yourself a little bit more centered, a little bit more able to focus on what's important to you, not getting so riled up about the things in your environment. Yeah, so in spite of the chaos, there was this kind of sense of like nothing is getting to me. So you may also be finding that you're kind of overcoming some triggers. Maybe you have been on a path of healing and that's starting to show because the things that used to impact you negatively or that used to really kind of get you riled up emotionally, you're kind of coming to a point where those things have less power over you. Maybe that is something you're recognizing this month. And if so, that's great. Like, that's a really validating thing. And it's really lovely to have that experience, especially if you are putting the work in to kind of overcome those types of challenges. But yeah, so I got the sense that you're very much in your lane. And then it was kind of like this sense of focusing on what you need to do for yourself, because it's like wanting to connect with like lighter energies, with freedom, right? So it's kind of maybe you've been through some really rough times, maybe you've been kind of working through some life lessons or some challenging things, and it's kind of like knowing that you need to anchor things in, or to kind of commit to your own health and happiness, in order to be able to really fully welcome in a lighter, more relaxed energy, especially with the chaos around you. So I definitely got the, like, it's like the sense that things are chaotic but not. So it's like they are chaotic, but you wouldn't know it looking at you in the way that you're responding to it. And it made me think of that meme, the "this is fine" meme of the dog sitting in like the burning room or the burning house. So that might be you. There might be an acknowledgement that things are a little bit chaotic and messy, but you're just, maybe you don't have the space. Or it could be a sense of just like not having any shits left to give. Like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Excuse my language, but yeah, it could just be that you're done giving a fuck about things that are not inherently important to you, or valuable for your growth and your health and your happiness. So yeah, that was kind of an interesting theme. And what's even more interesting is that after I channeled those messages, this is the card that came out as your theme for this month. So it's chaos and conflict. So that definitely goes hand in hand with what I was picking up initially. So yeah, that chaos, it could just be chaos and disorganization. It could be a lot of action, a lot of movement, a lot of moving parts, people, things, demands on your time. And it could, but it doesn't have to be, but it could involve conflict. So you might be experiencing conflict, more conflict than usual, within your relationships. So that could be in terms of friendships, familial relationships. It could be with colleagues at work. It could be in romantic relationships. So things might be a little bit tense. Perhaps you have gone through a great deal of conflict and you're now coming to the point where you're trying to rise above, you're trying to remove yourself from that additional stress, to move on from it. So that chaos could have resulted in, and the conflict could have resulted in an ending. Maybe there's something that needs to end. But the beautiful thing about this energy is that in chaos and conflict, as disconcerting and uncomfortable as it can feel, and it doesn't necessarily feel like a really positive and open-ended thing that's actually setting you up for bigger and better things, but it actually is, right? So it's kind of like rebuilding after a storm. It can be difficult to have to experience that storm and the fear and the discomfort, and potentially losing like your house or belongings, or incurring some kind of damage or even an injury, right? It can be difficult to go through that, and it's hard to see that as something positive or paint it positive. And we're not talking about toxic positivity or undermining the challenges associated with those types of experiences, because inherently, we struggle with them for a reason. It's just human nature. But it is saying that sometimes when that chaos erupts, when that conflict erupts, when that storm kind of takes over and crumbles, the things that you lose, the things that crumble down, the things that are tested and don't withstand the pressure, it's trusting that those things were torn down for a reason. And not like everything happens for a reason, but it's like, perhaps it's giving you the opportunity to connect with a new level of insight, or connect with a level of awareness that maybe that stuff wasn't actually serving you, right? Or maybe it was serving you, but not to its fullest extent. And in having it kind of crumble down, you're put in a position where you have to assess what was, how it was performing, how it was helping you, if it was. And if it's something that's worth rebuilding, how are you going to rebuild it to make it serve you better? So it's kind of like a tower moment, like a crumbling down, and that can be really difficult and painful. But the beauty is that it can be really enlightening when we have to experience those things, and then we have to reflect on the things that we've struggled with or that we've lost, because we have to be really intentional about what we're going to do moving forward from that. So it's like if something is shaken up and then you're trying to find your footing afterward, perhaps the things that come to light bring you to the realization that, hey, that thing that I had that I lost, this relationship, this job, this specific house, maybe an opportunity that looked as though it was going to be really promising, kind of was retracted or didn't pan out. It could manifest in any capacity, and that will be unique to each and every one of you. But it's basically recognizing that sometimes it allows us to see things from a different perspective. And sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise that something has been removed from our presence, because it's like, maybe it wasn't, maybe in that clearing out, it opens us to receive something bigger and better, or something new, right? To take us on another path. Or like I said, just being intentional about, if you're going to rebuild, how do you make it serve you better, right? What would you improve? If it crumbled down, then there were some cracks in the foundation, essentially, like it would have crumbled for a reason. So how do you fortify it and make it better? So there is a beautiful opportunity, and it's basically saying, like, the chaos and conflict can be really challenging, and it can be really easy to get brought down by it and see it as something inherently negative. But that chaos is kind of what keeps things changing and moving. And so in spite of the difficulty, if you can look at those experiences and these kinds of periods of life as an opportunity for change and transformation, and maybe an ability to get more clear on yourself and what's most important to you, to make decisions or to start bringing things into creation that are more representative of what's most important to you, and release yourself from the stuff that isn't working. Because even when it comes down to relationships and conflict, right, an X number of conflicts essentially are going to be non-negotiables. And if it's non-negotiable, then there's no sense fighting. Like, there is no fight. Because if it's a non-negotiable, it's basically like, there is no room for discussion. It's not necessarily going to be something you can be talked out of or that you're going to give up on. It's a non-negotiable for a reason. So we're not going to waste our time fighting when it comes down to non-negotiables, because we have accepted this is something that's important and unchanging for us. And if it's not going to be honored, then we'll move on, right? So it's simple in that way, that we don't need to spend our time fighting. So in that way, chaos and conflict can be really illuminating. For example, in a relationship, if you have a partner that seems like really promising, either someone new, someone you've been with for a long period of time, but you don't have some of those kind of deeper, important conversations, for instance, about non-negotiables, and then you find out that inherently you're incompatible in that way, you might not come to that realization until later in the relationship, where you feel like you're already very much invested and stable. But it's like, does that make the non-negotiable negotiable? Right? So sometimes we end up being in difficult positions, and sometimes conflict arises in our relationships when we realize that we don't connect on those really important matters, or that we don't align, and that perhaps on one side or both sides there is no ability to, or sense in, or interest in negotiating. And that kind of leaves us having to reassess our options and saying, like, hey, this might have been it, but can I really commit to it from this point forward? So you might be going through these moments of illumination, and perhaps these conflicts coming up are kind of helping you to get more clear on what's right for you, but it's not necessarily going to be any less difficult to have that knowledge and that awareness, and then do what needs to be done as a result. So yeah, so that might be what you guys are currently dealing with. And 33 also is a master number. It's very spiritual. But the challenge with this number can be because people who are spiritual or spiritually tapped in, if that's something that you connect to or that resonates for you, a lot of times people will become drained, right? Interacting with other people, going through these conflicts. And then instead of doing something spiritual to ground themselves and recharge themselves, they'll just become apathetic and less compassionate to the people around them. So it's like disconnected, right? So it's important to recognize that if you are a sensitive person, you need to be you need those outlets, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, to kind of like refill your cup, so that you don't have to kind of hermit and disconnect yourself from people, and so that you can still be compassionate in spite of the challenges that you face. So we're going to get you just a couple of cards here. So your first card is going to represent your challenge this month, or something that might be coming up that is difficult. And that's coming up as the Seven of Swords. And then we're going to get your advice for dealing with this challenging energy and working through it. All right, which has come out as the Sun, which is actually really interesting, because this goes hand in hand with this energy, but also the two channeled messages that I'm going to share with you once I'm done reading the cards. It also kind of aligns with that too. Okay, and then at the bottom of the deck, we have the Knight of Pentacles. Also, one thing that I'd like to point out with this card is you can see there's a zebra, but the zebra stripes have been kind of like painted over with giraffe print, right? And there's a sense of like things like the giraffe. I can't really tell. Either the zebra stripes are being replaced and coming through, or the giraffe print is disappearing. But either way, it's the idea that, you know, it's almost like, because this zebra was painted with giraffe print, it's like it's being convinced that it's a giraffe, or it's having to try and live as a giraffe even though it knows it isn't. So there's also a sense of like your authenticity shining through, right? So it's like not letting yourself be painted as someone that you are, feeling like you have to commit to an iteration of yourself that isn't true to yourself, either based on current situation or other people's expectations. It's kind of saying like, yeah, you could paint a zebra as anything but it's still going to be a zebra, right, at the end of the day. So what did they say? Like, is it a tiger can't change its stripes? Something like that. That's a similar kind of thing, right? So it's also making sure you're not gaslighting yourself into being something that you're not, and that other people aren't gaslighting you either, because that might be something that you're dealing with. Somebody's wanting you to be something that you're not, or trying to change you, or maybe having a difficult time accepting you as you are, expecting the tiger to change its stripes, the zebra to change its stripes. And let's be honest, that's going to be a disservice to everyone. So take that as you will. Okay, so with the Seven of Swords showing up here as the challenge, this is kind of like, this very often is a card of conflict. It can be a card of deception as well. So it's kind of like this maybe sneaky kind of underhanded energy. And the thing that's interesting is that it's kind of coming out under the light of the full moon. So this month in particular, the theme that is challenging could be related to other people in relationships, maybe not being completely honest, maybe having hidden agendas, hidden intentions. There could be some kind of misinformation, or something kind of deceptive. It doesn't have to be really insidious or really negative, but it could be something just small and deceptive that's kind of been going on behind closed doors or under the surface. And it's like that might be brought to the surface, that might be illuminated. So I'm not going to read predictively in the sense that, something might be exposed, someone might be exposed, there might be some kind of like secret or lie or deception that is exposed, but that might be something that you're dealing with. Or maybe there's someone that you're dealing with or have been dealing with that tries to hide their intentions, or thinks that they're doing a good job hiding what they really mean or what they're really trying to do, but you're kind of seeing through that, essentially. Excuse me. And it's all about recognizing that it's up to us when we're dealing with that type of deception. It's up to us to set the boundaries and say, like, this is not, acceptable behavior, or I don't have room for this type of energy in my life, and give the person the opportunity to, say their piece if it requires a confrontation. And then ultimately you're going to be the one that decides, like, if you're going to forgive, what it's going to take for you to forgive them. And if that is a person that you're willing to give another shot to, or to continue a relationship with, right? Because you have the power to make that decision. And it's also about making sure that anything, so whatever I'm saying in terms of someone being dishonest or not trustworthy, deceptive, anybody that doesn't quite sit right with you, any situation or behavior, anything that kind of gets your intuitive alarms ringing, whatever comes up for you when I say that, you'll know. But it's also recognizing that, yeah, you don't have to continue accepting or putting up with that, but also it's about not letting it taint your view of the world or your view of yourself, your self-worth, what you deserve, not allowing anyone to gaslight you into accepting behavior that is unacceptable, and also not taking that experience and projecting it into the future and allowing it to taint your future interactions with or relationships with others. So it's basically saying that although that deception, anything that's happening that's maybe not quite above board, might be difficult to experience, especially if it's coming to light unexpectedly, that illumination is something that's going to be beneficial for you, even if it does bring you some pain, because it's going to help you get clear or to become more clear or to stand up for what you feel is truly right for you. So it can be a difficult experience, particularly if there are people that we have to move away from or relationships that we have to end. But ultimately, it's in your best interest, because if that's going on and it isn't rectified, then it might continue to go on. It's like, it's not necessarily going to be of benefit to you to allow that to go on under the surface. So it's information that you need, even if it's difficult to hear, to do what's best for you. So it just might be difficult. You might be dealing with making decisions about the types of people that you're interacting with. It could even just be like in the workplace. Maybe your employer has practices that are not quite above board. Maybe you've been asked to participate in something that isn't quite right and to, keep things a secret. And this is basically saying, like, you get to decide how you're going to handle this situation and use it to your advantage. And if you need to set boundaries and move away from certain people, you can forgive yourself and you can forgive others. But when it comes to forgiving others, just because you have granted them that forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to continue that relationship or make room for them in your life. Even if they're a family member, right? It's you'll know what I'm talking about if that applies to you. And your advice for working through this is coming up as the Sun, which is beautiful because this is the happiest card in the deck. This is just a joyful, abundant energy. It is the things that make you happy, the things that feel like sunshine on your face, the things, the experiences, the people, right? And this is about allowing yourself to connect with that, allowing yourself to see that in your day-to-day experience, and not only to see it, but to really feel it and experience it. Like, so being present in the moment, soaking it in and looking for the good, right? So it's like, they say happiness is a choice. So even if things are chaotic, even if there's conflict, even if there's struggle, even if there's some like shady stuff that has been going on or that you've been put through, it's your advice to kind of keeping your balance is to remember, right? To connect with the people and the things that feel like sunlight, to look for the good and to allow yourself to feel it, right? Because this is what's going to be most important to you. And this is also kind of like your passion and creativity, your most authentic self. And with the Knight of Pentacles being at the bottom of the deck, that's kind of like the past energy that's influencing this current like challenge and advice to overcome, and this overall theme. And this can be like, a journey of working really hard. Like it's showing up every day and taking consistent and practical steps toward your goal. So that could be, and it is material, so that could be goal in terms of like money, saving money, buying a house, starting a family. It could be in terms of creatively, if you are an artist, maybe something that you're actually building or making. It could be your career, like your career path, your career growth, working your way up, building upon that stability. So this is kind of like a journey, and usually the Knight of Pentacles is a slow moving kind of energy. It's like slow and steady wins the race. If you want to be able to enjoy abundance, Like, you kind of have to put in the groundwork. And even on the days when it feels hard and the days that you don't want to show up, and even when the work that you're doing is not necessarily exciting or glamorous, it's showing up anyways and being consistent in putting the effort in to get to where you want to be, that will eventually get you there. And it's just kind of doing what you need to do to remain focused and balanced so that you can keep showing up for yourself in that practical sense to connect with abundance. So you could have been on a journey. Maybe there's something you've been building or working toward in a practical sense. It could be a relationship. And maybe this path to stability that you've been forging either on your own or with a company or with someone or like in a friendship or a relationship, maybe the things, the deception, this kind of shady stuff that has come to light is going to give you the opportunity to come to to get better, right? So maybe it's going to inspire a lot of really open and honest conversations, and maybe that hurt can turn into, the thing that brings you closer together and helps you get on the same page and helps you continue working toward your manifestation. Or maybe it feels like a kink in the armor, like a roadblock, right? And it's, what I would say is, even if whatever this challenge is, whatever's come to light, whatever you're struggling with in that capacity, even if it does seem to have a little bit of an impact on your stability financially in one way or another, I think it's important to recognize that you're still the one ultimately that's showing up for yourself every day. You are the one that has the ability and that can make the choice to stay consistent and show up and to kind of like keep your head in the game. So you don't have to give your power away to someone else. You don't have to be something that you're not, and you can still take those consistent steps for yourself, even if your circumstances have changed, even if the people that you're working with has changed. You can find a way to do that for yourself. It just might take a reevaluation of what's important to you. And I think as long as you're connecting with that happiness, the things that make you happy, the goals that you feel happy working toward, I don't think you can go wrong, to be honest. Because the sun is like a big yes. And the other lovely thing about the sun being a big yes is that it's also number 19. 1 and 9 is 10, and 10 is a number of endings and thus beginnings. So it's about having to go through the entire kind of life cycle, right? Like, we can't skip out. Inevitably, things will change. Things have to come to an end. And as difficult as it can be, it's also a really great opportunity it can be cathartic also, right? It's a great opportunity to assess where we've been, what we've experienced, how we've grown, to release what isn't serving us. And then once we release what isn't serving us, once we take that kind of inventory of like, what is worth my time? Have my values changed? Have I learned and grown in such a way that what I thought I wanted, I realize is not adequate anymore? Or maybe there's something that's more important to me. Maybe I've had an experience that really kind of like shook me awake and changed my priorities and my understanding. And maybe in doing so, the people around me who had the same values as me, now that I've changed, they don't necessarily understand me, or they don't align, right? Or they're not going to be supportive, or they're maybe not the people that I can partner with to make that happen for myself. Does that mean that you shouldn't go ahead? No, it just means you've been thrown into a little bit of chaos and conflict, and ultimately you have to decide, as a result of what you've experienced and how you've changed and what you know to be important for you, you're empowered to say yes to yourself and do what's right for you. And that means letting go of anything that doesn't align, letting go of anything that's going to hold you back, or anyone, right? And focus on connecting to these things that make you happy, this little spark of inspiration, and allowing that to help you move in a new direction, right? So this can be realizing, some things are just not meant, some experiences, some things, some people are just not meant to move forward with us. And the more that we try to take them in a direction that they're not meant to go, we kind of tie up our own resources, and we can make things more difficult for ourselves. So you might be finding yourself thinking like, what can I let go of? What isn't serving me? Because maybe what's preventing you from connecting with and experiencing this happiness fully and completely is your connection to something that you've outgrown. So I think that's really wonderful. The channeled messages, I'll take a moment to share with you. So I took some time to connect with these messages before I got your cards out. And the first thing that came through was Forget About Me. And it's a specific song. A friend sent it to me. It has not been my favorite, but I listened to it again. So it's Forget About Me by Aluna and Diplo and one other guy. And I could just hear that, like, forget about me. Sorry, I'm not a good singer, but I could just hear that little hook in my head. So I listened to the song and I actually looked at the lyrics, and I had never really paid that much attention to it, but I'm like, it's actually a bit of a bop, and the lyrics are interesting because it's kind of about having a relationship with somebody who can't accept your growth and your evolution. So it's like they meet you one way, they want you to stay the same, they're trying to force you to stay the same. The way that you're changing and growing and evolving, they don't have space for, or they're not able to accept. And so instead of evolving with you or honoring that, they're trying to keep you in one place. And it's about recognizing that when you're up against that kind of energy, you have to inevitably release yourself. So the idea of the song, like the vibe that I got from it, is it's like somebody that she's outgrown, somebody who can't accept her and honor her for who she is, especially on her journey of growth and discovery. And it's like, okay, well, that's it, right? Like, we're done and the relationship is over, but just because the relationship is over and you've moved on doesn't mean the other person has. So they might still be reaching out, they might still be hung up on you, they might still be thinking about you, they might be trying to convince you to come back or trying to keep you in that narrative. And this song, like Forget About Me, it's kind of like lose my number. You know, like, we're not right for each other, we're not meant to be. I'm okay with that, and like, you need to be okay with that. You need to like let it go. So you might be experiencing something like that, either in a current relationship, past relationship. Maybe that's something you're going through right now. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be familial, it can be friendship, however that makes sense for you. So yeah, I would have a listen to that song. Definitely read the lyrics and see how that resonates for you and if it applies to your situation. And then, funny enough, the next song that came through, which is kind of like this energy, honestly, but the next song that came through was Ode to Joy. So Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Originally, the lyrics are in German. It's called Ode an die Freude. So like, that's Ode to Joy in German. So I looked for the English lyrics, and yeah, it's basically all about like connecting to love, connecting to joy, experiencing connection to other people. There's a sense of connection to and trust in like the divinity of our life experiences, divine timing. So you might want to listen to that. It's like that standard like orchestral, that triumphant, joyful song that it's like, you know, the storm is over, the clouds part, the beam of light shines down on like this, you know, the wish fulfilled, or like happiness incarnate kind of thing. It's like that very standard stereotypical thing. You'll know the song if you don't recognize it by the name. So have a listen and Google the lyrics in English and see how that makes you feel. Because it kind of gives me that sense of like, yeah, joy is on the horizon, and you just kind of have to get past the stuff that's maybe like not so kosher and figure out how you're going to deal with it and be true to yourself. And then it's like letting the sun shine in, right? And so the fact that those two channeled messages came in and then the sun card was reflected, I think it's really awesome. And now I'm going to get you a final oracle message to end off the reading. I've already gone a little bit over for time, but that's okay. Felt it necessary because I think you guys like know what's right for you. You might just be in need of a pep talk. Like you can be the one to walk away, and just because someone else is having a hard time coming to terms or being at peace doesn't mean that you owe them anything more, right? And you certainly don't owe them your happiness. Okay, so just as they did while I was shuffling the cards to prepare for the reading, I've had so many, like multiple cards jump out, which kind of just is hand in hand with this chaos theme. Okay, so your final oracle message is share your voice. So come out of the cave, persecution, expression. So it kind of like makes me think about, you know, if you're a zebra, be a zebra, right? Like don't let anyone change you, and don't feel that you need to change, because who you are, you know, authentically is your it's basically, it's your greatest asset. That's what you've been given to work with. And that's how you honor yourself, by accepting that and sharing that. So I'll read from the guidebook. Share your voice, come out of the cave, persecution, expression. You're being called to share your voice, perhaps by speaking up in a relationship or through writing, speaking, singing, or some other form of creative expression. We each hold a truth deep within us that longs to be expressed. Sculpted for lifetimes, the voice of your soul is like no other. It carries with it wisdom that can only be gained through soul history and growth. By remembering, tapping into, and expressing this unique tone, we not only heal ourselves, we also heal the planet at large. When you share your voice, you unlock something in the universe and call a missing piece of you home. Your individual voice is the most powerful current on the planet. If you have kept your soul's voice silenced or held back, chanting or singing could be truly life-changing for you. Which is kind of interesting because both of those messages were songs. So maybe you're a musical person, maybe you like to sing, maybe that's a creative outlet that you could connect with more. As we shed the layers of our personality and start letting our unique soul speak through us, we discover that we actually have a very clear message that longs to be shared. The more we speak, the clearer it gets. There has never been a better time in history than right now to rise up, speak your truth, and share your soul's voice. If you feel fearful, know that you are not alone and that the world needs your unique tone in order to harmonize. As we each rise up and share our song, we make it easier for the next person to do the same. And there's an action that goes along with this that says, express yourself, share your voice, speak to those who can hear you. So it's important to be authentic and to share that part of yourself, across the board consistently, I think. But then it's also recognizing that there are going to be some people who are more receptive, who are more open, who are more aligned and able to understand and receive what you have to say. And it might be a process of seeking out those people, identifying who they are, and recognizing that it's kind of like going where your voice is heard, and not wasting your time in conflict with somebody who is really never going to be able to fully understand or appreciate what you're trying to express or what's most important to you, because they may not have the capacity, they might not have the same kind of frame of reference that you have, and they might not be in a position where they're able to make sense of that. So it's not necessarily something that's negative, or like an attack on you. It just could be that person has not yet had the type of experiences that they need to, or the illumination that is necessary to be able to fully understand and appreciate you for who you are and where you're at. So find your tribe. I think that's part of it. And the people that get you, reach out to those people, lean on those people, share with those people, because those are the people that will help you feel kind of more at home, more at ease in your own life. All right, and I've got affirmations. I was going to get you 2, but 3 popped up. So affirmations that may be helpful for you this month to keep in mind. I don't dance around the perimeter of the person I want to be. I step in fully and completely. So I think that's that like shameless, self-expression, authenticity. Relationships are assignments for optimal growth and healing. So whether they're people that are with us for a moment or for a lifetime, it's recognizing that is an important vehicle for change. Sometimes people come into our lives to test us or to help us learn or integrate certain ideas, to show us what we don't want or maybe what we do want. So not everybody is going to be for you always. And last one, by spreading loving energy, I attract more love. And that kind of goes nicely with the sunshine energy. So it's not only being open to acknowledging, receiving, and experiencing that happiness and that sunshine, but it's also sharing your happiness and your sunshine with others, radiating that outward, and knowing that other people will benefit from it, just like you benefit from receiving it from others, and that is simply going to attract more people who are looking for that happiness and sunlight. The more you're in doom and gloom, and that's what's expressed, the more people see that and are drawn to that, and you're going to be bringing in people who are in that space, which sometimes we need to do, right? But if you have the opportunity to be in a place of happiness and to cultivate that for yourself, the beauty of it is that it multiplies when shared. It kind of grows, it illuminates others, and it will attract people who are looking to experience that energy and also kind of reflect that back to you as well, which is really, really beautiful. So Aquarius, I really love this reading for you. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to leave it here. If you did enjoy, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, or leave me a comment. Let me know how it resonated. Beyond that, you can share my readings with anyone you think might be interested. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. You can hop on over to my page at Bright Soul Collective Tarot, check out some of my other readings, and ensure that if you are subscribed, you've clicked the little bell icon. That will give you notifications and keep you up to date on new readings as they're posted, because as I said, I'm hoping to be back at it and consistently putting readings out for you guys. So yeah, so Aquarius, I hope you guys have a beautiful January. It's been a pleasure reading for you. I am so happy to be back, and I'm very much looking forward to reading for you again in the future. And until then, I'm wishing you all the very best.